Okay. All right, welcome to this another sculpting session on this portrait that I'm working on of Charlie Kirk, monument size 1.5 or 1.25, so like 1 1/4 larger than life size. Portrait, just doing the portrait for right now, and that's what I'm going to be working on. So if there's any questions or anything, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll just be working. And usually I have a nicer camera set up, but the other camera wasn't showing up on the, like my computer wasn't recognizing the nicer camera, so I'm just going to be doing it with the monitor or with the camera that's on the laptop, or the, I guess it's a MacBook. Get my references. So he says, looking good so far. I have to appreciate a political speaker that speaks out about his faith, and appreciate artists who do the same. Yeah, well, it's at this point it's a little hard to tell. You know, the getting an accurate likeness is very difficult, and so it's hard to tell so far whether this is going to be a good portrait or not. But the fortunate thing with this type of clay is you can just work at it and work at it. So if it's not good, you can just move things around. And Charlie Kirk has some strong, striking features. Definitely definitely distinct features. Very very distinct, and the features that he has, it's distinct in a way that it's easy to caricature. You know, he's got kind of a head that is a little bit larger up here, a large forehead, and kind of a small mouth, large nose, and so it's easy to caricature just because it's very distinct features, but I don't want it to look like a caricature. I want it to look like a proper portrait. So some people just have features that are easier to sculpt, and some people have more difficult features. I've never tried to sculpt Charlie before, Charlie Kirk, and so we'll see if it's something that comes easy or that I struggle with. But he definitely does have distinct features, large cheek bones, and kind of a rounded face. He says, thanks for this. What type of clay is this? This is just clay that I got from the Dollar Tree. It comes in a bunch of colors, and I mixed together all the colors except for the darkest two, which were black and dark purple. Just took out those darkest two colors, just so it wasn't so, if you mix everything together, it's like a charcoal gray, like a really, really dark clay, and it's a little bit hard to see the details in such a dark clay. But I'll probably be finishing this one with another type of clay, a Nara clay from Hobby Lobby, because it's a little bit cheaper per pound. And because this is a large sculpture, I just want the cheapest clay I can get, basically. So they'll be different colors. So I'm thinking maybe I'll try to keep this clay for the portrait, the neck, and then if I do the shoulders, that'll be a different type of clay. But I'll probably be building that up with foam, or with wood first maybe, or wire mesh, and then some spray foam, and then build on top of that when I get to that point. But for now, I'm just focused on the portrait, seeing if I can get a good likeness. Easier said than done. just gonna hollow out some of this just to keep it lighter. That's why I'm removing some of this, so that it doesn't get so heavy so fast, and to save clay. Somebody says, I have some monster clay. I was under the impression it wouldn't inhibit the curing of my silicone, but it does. So besides maybe newer, fresher monster clay, better clays to make molds off of. I've done this clay a little bit, and I've never had an issue with, so this is just the Dollar Tree modeling clay. I've never had an issue with it. But the Chavant NSP, which I usually use, I recently tried a type of silicone, and I found the same issue, that when I poured it thin, it didn't play well. It kept the silicone from curing. So I'd be curious what brand of silicone you were using, if it's the same brand, and it might be an issue with that specific brand of silicone. But I'm not sure if that was it, or if it's just the type of clay that you were using. Hello from Malta, big fan of your work. Hello. Hola, saludos, bro. Excelente trabajo. Gracias a tus tutoriales. He aprendido mucho. Haz más figuras de superhéroes. Gracias, bro. Saludos. Well, thank you. I'm not as good at reading Spanish as I used to be. A little out of practice. Need to practice more speaking Spanish, but gracias. Gracias, hermano. It's whatever type of silicone was a good price at the time. Yeah. I know how that goes. Hi, Andrew. I enjoy your videos and have been watching you for a while now. Keep up the good work. You're going places. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm going places, but I'm still doing what I've been trying to do. Still trying to create artwork, so at least I got that going. Also from Ireland. That's great. He says, dude, that looks insane even without the mouth. I could never do that. Well, you probably could if you spent as much time sculpting as I've spent. Or if you got one of my, join the sculpting course. There's a portrait sculpting course that I teach if you're interested in learning. But it's just practice and learning technique. He says, seems cool to learn. I might join one of the courses and give it a test. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And if you're not sure about the courses, I believe there's a link to a PDF that has a lot of the free lessons from the courses. There's a portrait sculpting PDF. So if you think, oh, I don't know if I want to invest in a course, but I'd like to learn or just try it out, then you could just even begin with the free courses. Most of those lessons are up on the Proco 3D channel. So yeah, if you're interested, the content's there. It's just if you have the desire and willingness to put in the time, which it is a lot of time. Learning anything and becoming good at anything takes time. So that's the main investment. He's asking how much time do you expect to spend on this piece? I don't know. It's hard to say ahead of time. You know, when you start a piece, you don't know how long it's going to take. Usually with most projects, I think it'll take less time than it actually ends up taking. So I don't know how much time. Do you have a studio where I could see your work in person? Yeah, it's in Iowa, the middle of Iowa. I've done a workshop here. I did a workshop this last year, and I'll try to do another one next year. So if you'd like to come and study with me directly in person, watch out for that. You can message me like workshop on Instagram, and I'll add you to the list of if you're interested in that. Instagram is usually the best. Just send me a message and I'll with your email and let me know you're interested in those workshops, and then you can come to Iowa and see the studio space. It's a barn on a property that I purchased, or that our family purchased, and yeah. I need to set out more of my artwork though. I have some of it in the background in front of those windows, but I need to put out some more of it. Let me grab another knife. Ooh. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of like carving away at some places just because I don't want to run out of clay, and I don't want this to get too heavy too fast either. So if there's an area where I know it's gonna be thicker, just taking the time to hollow it out a little bit and then add it back on top, and that saves me a little bit of clay and a little bit of weight so that it doesn't get so top heavy. So that's why I'm like constantly just like tearing into the sculpture and then fixing the holes. It's all part of the process. I usually, I wouldn't do this if I had loads of clay, but when you're doing a bigger sculpture like this, the clay can get expensive, and I ran out of this type of clay, and the next batch of clay is going to be slightly a different color, more gray, similar to this hue, brightness, but it's going to be a little bit more gray. So I want to because it's hard for that camera to see exactly what I'm doing. I wish I was in a better setup, but for some reason the technology wasn't cooperating to get my nicer camera on the sculpture. Though I am recording the process, so should have a nice recording. This is done. That was a wasp, in case you're wondering. Got it. Somebody says, do you plan on making a mold so you can cast it in something more permanent? Hopefully. I probably won't have the resources to do that on my own, but if it's a well-done sculpture, then maybe. I think, well, hopefully there's a lot of artists that are motivated to make similar sculptures. I think he deserves to have lots of monuments for him, and so we'll see if that happens with this one. Though if it's just, just what I can do, then I probably won't be able to invest in the supplies for that. But we'll see. If somebody else, wants to, says, yeah, that's worth preserving, then it might be cool to have it done in bronze or something. But I don't know. I couldn't afford to do that on my own. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully somebody says, oh, that's one of the better sculptures of him. And then I'm sure if that's the case, then there'll be those that are interested in seeing it made into something more permanent, a bronze or something. Let's see. Big rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Yeah, for sure. It is such a sad thing. Such a sad reality that somebody would do that. Not only that somebody would do that, but that so many people are like celebrating the death of somebody that just went around and talked to people, I'm looking at it from the front to try to see if I can place the ears about right. Because as you're getting a likeness, the more stuff, the more things you have in place to kind of triangulate from. Like, oh, this is the ear. And the more things that are somewhat accurate, the easier it becomes to see what changes need to be made. But it's very hard to get those things in the right place. Portrait is a very difficult challenge, artistic challenge. If you've never tried to capture a likeness of somebody, just try and you'll see that it's not as easy as it looks. Particularly when you can't observe them, from life. You're working from photo references, so you don't have as much visual information to observe. Hey Andrew, always a pleasure to see you work. Greetings from Peru. Hello, thank you, appreciate it. This one's a little bit slow going. It's probably not as exciting as some other stuff, but it's coming slowly. Yeah, I'm just trying to preserve clay because I don't have a lot left, already running low. So anywhere where I can make like these air pockets inside, I'm trying to do that. So it says this is starting to look very much like him. I bet it'll look just like him when you're done. I can't believe he of all people is who they targeted. He was so mild in his politics and very polite. I pray for this country and for the Western society in general. Yeah, he was not. Yeah, it's very surreal. Not the person you'd think that they would try to execute, but I guess when you've mentally justified violence against political enemies, then nobody's off the table. When you've convinced yourself that the other side is, whatever label they put on conservatives, fascist, or what do they say? Fascist is a big one. Christian nationalist is another one. Whatever you choose to call it. Once you've justified in your mind that it's okay to use violence to gain political or to solve political issues, then that's what happens. And it's a very ugly thing. It's like people have talked about it like the woke mind virus. It really is like a virus. It's like something where the idea overtakes these people and they become insane. Certainly morally insane. And you see it in the, it's not just like, you could say, oh, it was just one crazy guy, but then you see on social media so many people celebrating it and happy that it happened, believe that it was justified. So it's very very ugly thing. Man, it's warm today. Somebody says, hi, hello. Welcome to the live stream. I'm a little bit delayed on some of the comments. Not paying close attention. Just trying to get some work done. It's coming together very well. Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a slow process with something this big. There were some other sculptors. Quentin McCann, who's a friend and fellow sculptor from Utah, he's done a portrait that's coming along quite a bit faster, and he's really good at capturing likeness. I have a sculpture of his, of Jordan Peterson, that's one of my favorite portraits that somebody's done. I'm gonna try to grab some more clay from the back, because I feel like I am using clay a little bit too fast. I'd like to have enough to finish this. Finish the portrait with the brown, and then I'll get a gray that'll probably be used for the rest of it. It says Charlie, he died, but his ideas live on. Well, that's definitely true. His ideas were, Christian, conservative, meaning that you want to conserve what's good about the past beliefs. God, family, country, those things aren't going away. No matter how much the left would like to see those things go away. It's not happening anytime soon. Yeah, there's a ton of mass in the back of the head. In fact, the back of the head is way bigger than most people realize. And so, by hollowing out this back area and just putting in some supports and making it I should be able to salvage some clay and keep from running out. Hello from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Is there special clays for sculpting if you're going to cast later in bronze or any other material? No, not really. Usually you'll use a silicone mold, so anything that plays well with silicone, usually an oil and wax-based clay, is what people will do for monuments, similar to the type of clay I'm using. This is just an inexpensive Dollar Tree non-dry modeling clay. And the reason that that's common to use is just that it generally, as long as it doesn't have sulfur in it, it usually plays well with silicone and other mold making materials. And so the clay just has to be able to mold well. That's like the main thing. And I haven't had any issues with this type of clay and when I've tried to make molds. Are you going to cast this? I don't know. I probably won't be able to, just because the mold making process will be pretty expensive. If somebody else, is interested, I might send it off and have it molded and cast. But there'd have to be like a sponsor to do that, and so I probably won't be able to do that myself. But hopefully by the end it's a good enough likeness that those that are interested in memorializing Charlie will find it and be interested. Though if not, then it'll just be another sculpture, another practice piece. Everything's practice when you're an artist. What scale is this piece? Looks large. Yeah, it's about 1.25, 1.25 life size, which is a pretty, it's a pretty standard like monument, larger than life monument scale. Is this going to be a bust or have more of the base underneath? I'm not sure yet. So, I mean, technically this could be, put on a full figure. I've seen some AI renderings that people have just done on X of like possible sculptures that could be done of Charlie. So this could be attached to a full figure if somebody is like, oh, I like that portrait. I'd like you to do the whole figure and then have it be a life-size kind of, or larger than life figure. That's possible. And that could be done with this one, or it could just be it could just be a bust. If it's just a bust, I'll be doing at least some of the shoulders. When I get to that stage, I've ordered some more clay, so I'll probably do that once it comes to that. Yeah, I may need to remove some of the clay from the neck just to have enough for the head. It's not ideal, but well, I guess I'll use what I have here in the bucket first. Hi Andrew, if you weren't making a video for us, would you be listening to music as you work, or to work to as a viewer? I must admit, I prefer watching without music as a distraction. It's really relaxing. Usually I actually don't listen to music. I usually listen to podcasts. So yeah, podcast is usually what I'll listen to. Matt Walsh is probably currently my favorite, conservative podcaster. Charlie Kirk's podcast, I listened to a little bit, but I guess well, he was good at what he did, and that means that there was a lot of marketing on it because he used those funds to fund what he was doing. But I found the ads a little bit too distracting, and so I run. But that's like, so I prefer the clips of him, like the YouTube clips, seeing him argue with people to listening to his particular podcast, though his was great as well. But who else? I like some of the Daily Wire podcasters. Not Ben Shapiro too much. Usually it's like Matt Walsh first, then Andrew Klavan and Michael Knowles, and also I started listening to Brett Cooper's since she left the Daily Wire and went on her own. I've been listening to that a little bit here and there. I also like listening to audiobooks, so I don't have as many now, but I really liked like the Way of Kings and other audiobooks by Brandon Sanderson, who's a kind of a sci-fi author. He's also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's a member of my church, which is kind of cool to have such a talented author. I like his stuff. So yeah, audiobooks or audio podcasts is usually what I listen to. I'd probably have music. It's probably better to have music, but I just struggle finding a place where you don't get like copyright striked and then you can't run ads on your content. So I'd just rather have no music and then have to worry about that headache of like not being able to run ads on my content, or if I break it up, then it's like the music just gets in the way. So it's not for lack of wanting music. I just am not, either I'm not tech savvy enough to find the free stuff, or I'm too cheap to pay for a subscription to be able to run actual music during these live streams. But people have made that comment on video. Some people say that they really don't like the music in the background, but I think videos with music do perform better. So even if people say that, then that's a minority, and generally people like the music. But I don't listen to that anyway, because almost none of my videos have music in the background. Unless it's just a time lapse, then I'll usually put some sort of music on. But I didn't see the beginning. Do you have videos for your skeleton frame structure for holding the weight of different size forms? I filmed a little bit of the process of making the armature for this. You could see that it's just like a 2x4, some 2x4s. This was 2x4s that actually came from the barn. Some of the beams that I took down and added up new ones up higher, and saved these. And so these are actually 2x4s that are 2 inches by 4 inches. They're the beefier ones, the older ones. And then I just like cut it at, I think, a 15-degree angle is what this is. Cut some 45-degree triangles here for like where the trapezius muscles would be. And then I just held up a chunk of the wood and scribed it to see where I think it was the 15-degree cut. And then here, I just held it up against it, scribed it, and then made that cut. And then screwed and nailed it and glued it in place. And then also attached it to another section of the 2x4 here. Then glued and screwed on this board from underneath with screws and wood glue, and then screwed this one down to a bigger board. So I can take this off. I could even cut this if I need to attach it to a full figure or do something else. So that's a walkthrough of the process, but I do have video of the process that I'll probably put out at some point if I do a shortened video of the whole process of this sculpt. I like Charlie Debates more than his podcast. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way. Let's see. Do you listen to Candace Owens? I never got into Candace Owens, her stuff. So I guess the answer is no. I haven't listened to a lot of. I've seen some clips and things, but I haven't really gotten into her content. Just it's been other creators mostly. Yeah, Candace. Candace, I always felt like well, I guess I don't need to talk about drama that I don't really know much about. But both Candace, well, I guess we might as well talk about it. So Candace and Brett Cooper, and then also Stephen Crowder was like maybe going to do a deal with the Daily Wire, and then he kind of blew up that deal. And I felt like the Daily Wire with the Crowder situation was a little bit more in the right, because immediately when things came out, they were like super open about it. They like got out the contract and said like this is what happened, and they were like super like trying to put out as much information as possible. But I felt like the opposite happened with Candace, where when Candace was removed, that they were just like, well, we don't want to talk about it at all. And I was like, oh, okay. So then they're probably not 100% in the clear or in the right if they want to not talk about it, not put out whatever information or whatever conversations happened, and so I felt like that, and then the same thing with Brett Cooper, where it seemed like they're just like, oh well, we'd rather not talk about it. So I was like, oh yeah, that seems like the company's making some poor decisions, or maybe it's personnel issues, or I don't know what. But I felt like that was unfortunate stuff. But I really like some of the creators. I don't know too much about the leadership of the Daily Wire and how that goes. And then I guess Jeremy Boring, the CEO, was kind of pushed like to the background a little bit, or I don't know, kind of maybe he had some issues, or I don't know what happened, but I'm sure other people have more information and more informed speculations on what might have happened. But I suspect it was just, personnel issues and working out contracts and just business stuff. What type of books or videos for learning sculpting do you like the best? Books, I recommend the Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure by Edward Lane Terry. There's a video on this channel where I talk about that book and show some of the visuals from it. It's like a classic sculpting book, one of the best. So I definitely recommend it. If you can afford it, there's I think it's the number 2 Sculpt, or no, what is it? It's not 2 Sculpt. It's Anatomy for Sculptors, with I think the number 4 or something like that. Anatomy for Sculptors. And that one's a little bit more expensive, but it's also a really great resource if you can get that. That's a nice, it's got nice visuals in it for figurative sculpting. A podcast that's like for sculptors is what is it called? A Sculptor's Funeral. That's like a sculptor / sculpture historian or art historian guy that really likes sculpture and the history of sculpture, and he talks about different sculptors throughout history and goes in depth. And so that one's fun if you'd like more of the history of sculpture and great sculptors and those types of videos, or not videos, but a podcast that goes over those kinds of things. A Sculptor's Funeral is what that one's called. And that one's a good resource. Let me see, I'm gonna see if I can't work out this likeness from the side view just a little bit better. I know I'm putting my head in the way. It's always frustrating when I'm filming and then trying to show while I'm trying to see at the same time. We're like competing for the view of the sculpture. has kind of a long, what is this called? It's not the septum, the nasal septum's up here. It's the philtrum, I think, the philtrum, this little area right here. But it's not that much longer than the average. It's like kind of average, maybe up even just a little bit. I don't know how I feel about that. It feels a little bit off. Not sure what it is about it, but I'll just leave it a bit more simplified. Because I'm too early on to worry too much about that. Maybe I'll pull it forward just a little bit. Getting a really good profile is key to a good portrait, but it's very difficult. Let's see. Oh, looks like I missed a few. Let's see. Off topic a little bit. How's the gym training going? I agree with you, the video that all artists should lift. Do you switch up your training cycles much? I'm coming to the end of another 3 months. Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I guess, well, I've recently tried to switch it up and do like full body, like a full body workout every day. And the first week that I did that, it felt really great. It felt like I was able to get better workouts. But then, like today when I went to go do it, I just did calves and then I did like just bench. And it's like the leg stuff just wears me out so much. So I might go back to doing what I did before, which was typically just like push days with bench and, you know, tricep stuff, and then pull days with pull-ups and bicep stuff, and then legs. And then I would just do whatever wasn't sore. But that means that I only work out those major parts of the body just once a week usually. So I don't know. But that's currently kind of what I'm what I've tried. But mostly, I mean, for the last probably how long have I been lifting? Since, I guess I got into it in like eighth grade, 7th grade is when I started like exercising with the football team, though I didn't like football because I didn't want to get hit and be all bruised. I just liked working out, so I would work out with the football team and then or also with the wrestling team sometimes. Though wrestling was more like they did cardio and stuff. But I just didn't like being bruised up, so I just liked the lifting weights, pushing weight around. So yeah, that's what I've done for a while, is just push-pull legs, push-pull legs, push-pull legs. Do you like the Y files? It's gotten me through some dark nights, especially Hecklefish. Well, I don't know what that is. So the Y files and Hecklefish, I don't know. It sounds like something you'd have to know what it is to understand that. So I can't comment on that. I heard that men with beards are better sculptors. Just a reminder, Michelangelo had a beard, so it must be true. LOL. I haven't ever heard that, but I know plenty of sculptors that don't have beards that are pretty talented. Let's see, do I know? I guess I know some that have beards that are also talented, but a lot of the sculptors from Utah that are very talented, but typically members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints shave their beard. Like it's kind of for clergy and missionaries. They ask that you shave. Though, if you look at prophets of our church back when it was started, Joseph Smith was clean shaven, but Brigham Young, and then after that, a bunch of the prophets had pretty substantial beards. So I'm hoping that the church brings back bearded leadership, but we'll see. But a beard's fun. I'd probably have a shorter beard, but my wife really likes the look of the longer beard. It kind of elongates my face a little bit. And I have kind of a short, like, chin to mouth area. This right here, especially when my mouth is all the way closed, is kind of short. So I think for those that have a it's like a way of changing your facial features in a way that looks more, more masculine, obviously. Not a lot of women going around with beards, though I guess that's changing. Little by little, more and more women with hopped up on goofballs to grow beards. Let's see. What advice do you have for high school? Well, I probably shouldn't give you my advice for high school. Now, I guess I'll say no, that I don't have any advice, but I do homeschool with my kids. That's what we do with our family. And I do think that that's a better environment than most high school situations. As far as your ability to pursue what interests you and what you're, and then just to learn about the things that you're interested in, I think it's really valuable. I was homeschooled until till 7th grade. I was mostly homeschooled, and it allowed me to work on, those things that I was interested in, and I got to spend a lot of time with my brothers. And I noticed that once we went to school, like we didn't have kind of the same, my younger brother's only a year difference, but we didn't have the same friend groups, and so it was different than at home. So I don't know. Maybe my advice for high school would be like test out of it with just the whatever it is that you can get a test and it's just equal to the high school diploma, and then like just start doing what you're gonna do, or like just go get a job doing something just to save up until you know what you're going to do. I would definitely not recommend for most people going right into college, especially if you don't know what you're going to do. Or if you're going to be an artist, then college is basically useless because people don't care about what degree you have. They just care about, can you make the artwork that they like? And how good are you? So I'd say like be interested in learning and be constantly learning. And I honestly think a lot of school gets in the way of that, because if you have one bad teacher can basically ruin an entire subject for you. And there's a lot of bad teachers, and I don't know where you go to high school, but I'm sure you have, like, for every really talented, good teacher that makes you love the subject, there's like eight mediocre ones and 4 terrible ones. It seemed like that for me, at least, that for every really good teacher I had, there was quite a few that were just not very good. So I'd say, like, learn as much as you can in spite of being in high school, because they're gonna try to make you learn these things that maybe either they don't have any bearing on what you'll do in the future, or it's just kind of memorization stuff. All of that is like, I don't know, useless, if that's the right word. Like, a lot of what is taught in high school is just stuff you'll never use again. And they say, well, but you'll learn how to learn in high school. But I don't even think that's in public school. I don't even think that's the case. I think homeschoolers and people that are self-motivated, they learn how to learn on their own. And YouTube, I probably learned more from YouTube videos and from other artists that I just like went and worked with than I did in college or in high school. So that's probably not what a parent hopes, that somebody will encourage his kid to like not take high school very seriously. But that's become my attitude, that schooling is kind of basically just babysitting. And public schooling seems to just be getting worse and worse. Maybe 50 years ago it was pretty decent. Like, you were actually taught. But I mean, even then, you're just mainly being taught how to become a employee for somebody, which is fine if you want to be an employee, and most people will be. So, but that's not what I was interested in. And if you're going to try to be like a self-employed artist, then it's more akin to owning your own business than to being an employee. You have to be self-driven, self-motivated, and be able to produce. Be able to set your own like deadlines and be able to produce by then. Somebody says, stay in school. Yeah, I guess that wasn't my advice. My advice was test out of it, go do something worthwhile. Well, my advice was like the opposite. Get a job, test out of high school and get a job. So like the opposite of what most people say, stay in school. I'd get I would test out of it. So I'd get the actual diploma, GED, but you could just take the test for it, and if you're, if you're mildly intelligent, that's not too hard of a thing to pass. So yeah, that's why I say my advice probably isn't what other people would want me to say, but that is how I feel. Somebody says, "Cool, you ever win your wrestling matches?" LOL. I didn't wrestle too much. I didn't actually do the wrestling part of it very much. I tried, but I was just like, man, I'm like bruised all over. I'll just do the exercises. Didn't like being bruised, because it's like being sore where it's painful, but it's like a pain and there's no. I guess technically your body gets stronger and tougher with bruises, but for me it was like, well, I'm not like, my muscles aren't growing. At least with the soreness after you work out, you're like, oh, I'm sore. That means my muscles are growing. I'm like improving. Like, even if it's just imperceptible each time, it's like those add up over time and you get stronger and stronger. And but with being bruised, I just did not like it. So I didn't do too much of that. The Y-Files is a sort of sci-fi UFO mystery YouTube show podcast. A guy called AJ and Talking Goldfish. It's a lot funnier than it sounds. I might have to check it out, the Y-Files. Interesting. Somebody says, find your passion, never look back. I was homeschooled and I'm homeschooling my kids. Oh, well, that's great. That's great. And that was the person that said stay in school and you took your kids out of school. That's funny. Well, I mean, I guess you could say that homeschool is school, but it's a different environment. It's a better environment, I think, for most people. I know your religion is very important to your work. If you were ever to depict a moment from your theology and scripture, what would you pick? Well, I think anything from Christ's life on earth is something that I like. I think I'm actually working on a sculpture now. I've kind of set it aside for a bit, but I need to get back into it. That is of Christ, kind of the risen Christ. Where he's coming down from heaven, or haven't decided too much of that yet. But I think anything with the resurrected Christ. For us, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we also have additional scripture, like another testament of Jesus Christ, which is the Book of Mormon, and that depicts Christ coming to the Americas, or that describes that and what happened, and it's similar to the Bible, where there's prophets and people writing down this record. But it's of people in the Americas, and that's part of what we believe in continued revelation and additional revelation on top of what was given in the Bible. So maybe some of that, like in the Book of Mormon, 3rd Nephi 11 is where Christ comes to the Americas and he teaches what he taught over in Jerusalem here in the Americas, and so that's maybe a event that would be interesting to depict artistically. Though many have done it, there's a lot of great artwork, paintings, a lot generally, and then also like the first vision is what we call it with Joseph Smith, when he prayed and God the Father and Jesus Christ came and visited him, and that's also there's a sculptor actually that from Utah that I sculpted with during some of the competitions that we set up in Utah, that did a version of that at Temple Square in Salt Lake City. That's a pretty impressive sculpture of the God the Father and his son Jesus Christ coming to Joseph Smith. So that's a cool concept that might be fun to do my own version of. David, I'd like to do, like David and Goliath, because that's a common theme for, like, Bernini had a great David, Michelangelo had a great David. So doing my own version of David, I'd like to do that. I've already done, I did Samson when he was blind. That was for a commissioned sculpture. That was a fun project. And let's see. But yeah, just any, I guess any of those events from Scripture, I'd love to do more of the religious stuff. And a lot of it is fun because you're not as tied to a specific reference. It's kind of your artistic interpretation is more open than something, say, like this, where I have a specific person that I'm trying to replicate, which is good, and it's kind of shows your ability, or if you have the ability to do it. But it is fun to be able to kind of do your own version of this character or of Christ. Imagine, we don't have many photographs, so we kind of just do the best we can to imagine. What he looked like in his presence, how he felt, the feeling around those events. Those are some things that come to mind from my religious background as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and just as an artist. Not that I'm not a representative of the church anymore now that I'm not a missionary. You represent the church as a missionary, you get a little tag, and that you're like an official representative of the church. But then after that, I'm just speaking as an individual, as an artist. I love combat sports. Me and my brother love boxing. It's fun, and over time I'll try MMA. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's intense. My younger brother is really into that, so he did boxing. There's a video, I think I put a video up on my channel of Matthew, my younger brother, he's like 10 years younger than me. And I recorded one of his boxing matches, and it was pretty intense, or I thought it was really intense, and he was pretty beat up. But he does decent and holds his own. And he also wanted to get into MMA, but now he's thinking like maybe not, just because it's like the risk reward is a little bit high. Though I hear MMA is actually safer than boxing, because boxing you're just getting hit in the head over and over again, and MMA is more full body, so there's less serious injuries than there has been in boxing. So I guess if you're going to do something, might as well do something that's a little bit less risky than getting brain damage. Not a big fan of the idea of damaging your brain. But I think there are just people that have that need to fight. It's like an environment. It's like something that some people just really connect with. I just wasn't me too much. Hello, Andrew. Any tips on sculpting hair? The main tip that I give is just don't treat it like hair. Don't think of it different than other features. There's a lesson that goes in the portrait sculpting course. There's several lessons that talk about hair, sculpting hair. So if you're really interested, you might consider that. Consider going over those lessons. I think there's I don't remember if there's a free lesson or not, but that's in the portrait sculpting course. And yeah, just think of it as like that you're sculpting. Somebody talked about it in painting, like think of it like you're painting smoke or something. But I'd say think of it as like chunks, like there's like chunks of hair and the direction that they're flowing, and think of it more in that way than as than hair. We think of hair as like a bunch of little hair follicles, but when sculpting, you want to just treat it as a mass. Maybe I could do a little bit of the hair. I'm trying to even up these. I worked on the tricky thing, and something that I'm going to be struggling with, is that you get used to what your sculpture looks like. And this is something that you have to fight. And then your sculpture, you're just like looking at your sculpture more than the reference, and the sculpture just looks more and more like the sculpture instead of the person you're sculpting. And so I have to try to avoid that. Try to avoid that pitfall. But yeah, I'd say with hair, don't think of it as hair. Just look at the shape that the hair makes, like the outline of it, and then just put in that outline. Just treat it the same way as everything else. And I'll probably, with this sculpture, I'll probably try to do the hair pretty loose and sketch-like. The shape of the head is still a little bit, still needs to be wider, but I'm running out of clay. Maybe let me try to grab some more clay from the back of the head. Back of the head on this side. Let's see if I can't get some. Gonna try to keep this mass here, but just fill it out mostly with just air space. Let's see. David and Goliath would be very cool indeed. Thanks for answering. Oh yeah, David and Goliath would be a cool one. Hola, buenas noches desde España. Valencia. Buenas noches. Valencia. Desde España. My wife really likes the Spanish accent of Spaniards from Spain. Let's see, where is oh snap. Yeah. Try to push this out and then build up walls to kind of give a little bit support inside. Give me the mass that I'm looking for. While saving some of the clay for these other areas. Are your parents and all your siblings artists? If yes, sculpture? No, nobody in my family is an artist. My grandma, on my dad's side, really liked art and wanted to be an artist, but she never pursued it, and still regrets it. She's 95, still regrets it to this day that she didn't pursue her art more. But yeah, I'm the only artist. So this is good. Even if I put all the clay back, I've made it a little bit larger so that this area has more mass to work with, which I think I needed. So if it looks like I'm just like taking the clay out and then putting it back, that's what I'm doing. But hopefully with a little bit of, it's a little bit better than before. Thank you, Andrew. On the topic of boxing, recently watched Cinderella Man about boxer Jim Braddock. Really good movie. I think I've heard of it, but I don't watch a lot of movies. Maybe I should change that. I've heard there's a lot of good movies out there. That does sound interesting. It's always cool to get a Cinderella Man. I've heard of it, but I should go watch that. Hello.
I should be heading out now. Are you in here?
Okay. All right. Let me turn everything off and come in.
I have the food in the stove on low. So
Okay. I'll probably wait till you come back, or what?
just keep an eye on it.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me turn everything off and come in. Okay. Bye. Okay, that's going to be it for today. So let me just fix this hole that I just made. And I think it's better than when I started, which is always good after a sculpting session, that you don't make it worse, because that does happen sometimes, where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have touched it. It was better before, but today I think it actually is getting better. And somebody says, what type of art does your grandmother make? She would do painting, like she did painting stuff, and she got into like abstract like dyes on ties, making ties, like a shirt and tie, and with salts and different things, and she did a little bit of that. But yeah, she kind of just let the dream go, just because she didn't dedicate the time to it. I'm like, she's had the time, she's been alive, but she just always finds other things to occupy her energies. All right. Somebody says, I think it should be law that you get free clay for life, signed by executive order. Donald J. Trump. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, it's always, I'd be one of the special interests. The special interest getting Andrew Keith like $1 trillion worth of clay or something from the federal government. Somebody says, I 100% agree for free clay. Well, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully next time the quality will be a little bit better on the screen, and I'm recording it, so we should be able to, I'll get a video of this put together at some point, and hope you guys can stay creative and stay productive, and I'll see you around.